You may be seated. Praise God. 18 years ago. It was 18 years, I think, in August. I was thinking about that. July, August. Time flies when you're having fun. Amen?
I remember August,
yeah. But,
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
hallelujah. Father, I just thank you for today. I thank you for your word. Your word changes our lives.
Yes. Thank you.
In every area, in every aspect, Father.
Yes.
And Father, fill my mouth with your words this morning.
Thank you.
That nothing comes from me, but it comes from you.
Yes.
Father, stir in me what you have to say. And Father, I receive that anointing to minister.
Hallelujah.
To minister your word this morning.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hallelujah. Praise God. I'm going to look at you all. Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
God's doing some very mighty things right now. And hallelujah. He just keeps talking. I love it when he does this. But it's kind of uncomfortable because I don't know where to go.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Yes. He's doing some awesome things in this earth. And we can see the enemy is doing great things. I mean, he is. But he ain't bigger than God.
That's right.
And he is not bigger than you are.
That's right.
Amen?
Amen.
You have the power over him. And it's right here.
Yes. That's right.
But we got to have it in here for it to come out here.
Amen.
Amen?
Amen.
You know, we know that faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So it's very important that we have the word in us. So when we speak in that power, we speak in the authority, and we speak in the faith that word has grown in us. Because it's implanted in us. When it becomes implanted in us, it grows. Because it comes, God showed me this, it comes in seed form, but it grows into Rhema.
Yes.
That's when we know it.
That's right.
That is when we know it. I'm going to talk about evangelism this morning. And when you say evangelism, some people want to cringe. Not me. Well, let me tell you a little bit of something what God can do. When I was young and being raised parents and that, I was extremely shy. I was extremely backwards. I had a hard time having a conversation one-on-one with people. But God, amen? But God, He had a different plan for my life. He had something, and I was always told, well, he's always shy, he's backward, and that was what I became. But then God had to get that out of me. And so one of the first things He did was put me out as a salesman. Well, you ain't going to sell nothing if you ain't talking. And so I had to learn, and I was in the ag business here in Illinois. I spent about 20 years in agriculture. And that's where I really started learning how to get out of who this world and people said I was, and getting into who God said I was. And that's what you have to do. You've got to get past what this world has said and what you have said you are.
That's right.
and get into what God is saying you are.
Yes.
Amen? We've got to do that. We've got to make that connection. We've got to make that interchange within us. Well, he was calling me into evangelism. I am in the office of an evangelist, which was kind of unique because I'm soft-spoken and people expect something different. And I really like times by myself, and I still have that edge of being quiet. I don't talk a lot, but when I see people, it stirs something in me, and it should stir something in every one of us. And this is where I'm going to go today of just talking about evangelism. Webster says that it's promulgation. Anybody knows what that means? I don't either. I learned that. That's great. Do you know what it is?
It means to advance an idea or a theory.
Yes. That's part of it. And it's very good. But it's when I saw it, Rob, it's clear as mud to me. It means to publish an open declaration also. To publish an open declaration. Leonard Ravenhill said, America does not need another definition of Christianity. She needs a demonstration of Christianity.
Yes.
You look at, and I was raised in the Lutheran Church. Just always had an edge with God and with Jesus that I didn't understand, but I knew He was always there. And even at the times when I was in the Lutheran Church and I got my driver's license and I was spending time with the deacons and the elders of the church partying and getting drunk on Saturday nights and going to church Sunday. And that is the truth. And then there was that day that I told God, I said, God, if this is what you are, I don't want no part of it. And I walked away. And did my thing for a while. But then there was a lady who had been praying for her daughter. And her prayer was her daughter would marry a Christian. And the first night that I met her parents, I was stoned. And I know you never did that, right? No.
My brother.
You're your brother. Yeah. But God,
Yes.
6 months before we got married, I got born again.
Hallelujah.
And I got radically saved. At that time, I was a teenage alcoholic in school, the drugs and everything. And God took that all away.
Praise God.
And then they didn't know what to do with me. Because there and back to nothing against them, please. Don't take it that way. But they knew religion. And I was the most unreligious person out there when I got born again. But that started something in me of wanting to share what happened to me to people. And in high school, still in high school, and I went to a party not too long after that, and walked in and told them all, I said, I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke no more. Something has changed. It's changed in me. And I lost everybody except for one guy. One guy stuck by me. But see, there was something in me, and that's what happens when we get born again. There's a change in us. The word says we became a new creature or a new creation. Amen. old things are passed away. Behold, all things have become new. So there's something that started working in me in knowing that I need to share what happened to me. I didn't understand. I just did it. I just went out there and did it. And understand, I lived in fear of people. And this started happening to me. And then God started doing His work within me and changing my situation where I was, planting me into positions that I had to talk, I had to do something to get me where I'm at today. And He's still working on me today to get me where He wants me tomorrow. And He does that with every one of us.
That's right.
You ever been in an uncomfortable position and you knew God put you there? I have. Especially when 18 years ago He moved me out of a town of 1,100 people into Louisville, Kentucky. That's over 1 million in metro. And our low-income housing was about a 1 block square, and to go into Louisville where there's thousands in low income. And I remember when the first weekend after we moved down there, Pastor had an outreach planned. And we went down to Clay Street, which is the West End. And I remember pulling up and had the 2 kids and wife with me. We got out of the car and I told Renee, I said, lock the doors, because it was an interesting neighborhood. And we had that, and my eyes were wide open. And I was nervous, and honestly, I was scared of that. But here, God was putting me into position in a place that He needed to break something in me. And He'll do that with you also. Don't back off of where God places you where you're uncomfortable. Look to Him and say, okay, God, what are you doing in me? What do you want me to do here? Because He's refining us.
Yes.
Pastor talked about this end time revival. And it started, it's happening. But we're not in the full throne of this. Why? Because God still has some things to do with His people.
Yes.
We're there, and we're somewhat ready, but He's got more work to do in us. Because see, if He was to launch us into this revival, and we're not ready, it would hinder the revival, but it could damage you.
Yes.
And God loves you so much that He won't put you into something that you're not ready for. But He will put you into something that will cause you to stretch, that He knows that you will do. That you'll rise up to that occasion and rise up to that level that He wants to get you, and He's going to stretch you into that. And that may be evangelism. That may be sharing. And this word evangelism, I have really come into this place of liking that word but not liking that word. And the reason I say that is because when we think about evangelism, we're going to have this outreach and we're all going to go out and we're going to evangelize an area. And that is part of it. But we've gotten to a point where we're saying that's how evangelism is, but it isn't. Evangelism is a lifestyle. It's Christianity. Because see, before I was ever called into this place of an evangelist, I was a Christian first. And I had a responsibility to share what God had did in my life. Oh, by the way, I pastor. She made the mistake of telling me, well, you can tell me hi when you're being videoed, because I'll watch it. I said, okay, I will. She'll like that. And God gave me an awesome pastor. Put me with somebody who I needed, whose head was harder than mine, who's more stubborn than I am. But I love my pastor. She's a very special pastor. In Mark 16 and 15, it says, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They will speak with new tongues. They will take up serpents, and if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover." So then after the Lord had spoken unto them, he was received up into heaven and sat on the right hand of God. And they went forth and preached everywhere, the Lord working with them and confirming the word with signs following. Amen. And that amen means so be it, right? But it says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And I know I'm not going to go into all the world. Me, myself. But see, he's talking to the body. Giving directions to the whole body is, you need to get out and you need to go out into this world and you need to preach the gospel. Now that may not be preaching per se, but I tell you, your life, how you live every day, has a great impact on people.
Yes, amen.
But also, we have to talk. We have to share, right? One of my first things was that I had to overcome was, well, number one was fear, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But also thinking that I had to memorize Scripture. Well, I did so much stuff, my memory wasn't there. It's like, I don't know, nobody else. And I mean, we all know Pastor Bob had never done anything like that before, right? Yeah. But what the thing, and memorizing Scripture is good, but it's more important than to live it.
Yes, that's right.
And that's where we're at. And that's what really has a great impact, because when we live it and we know it, it has that power and that authority behind it.
Right.
And so when you talk to people, when you want to share about what Jesus done, share what he did to you.
Yes.
And I use, 1 Peter 2:24. It's by his stripes I'm healed. When I go to minister to somebody, I'll ask them, do you need healing? Have you got pain anywhere in your body? I want to pray. And if they do, it's 1 Peter 2:24. And I don't say, 1 Peter 2:24. So the word says, by your stripes I'm healed. So don't feel that you have to know chapter, verse, the book, chapter, and verse. Know it here.
Yes.
And it will come out here. Because it's going to come out in power.
Yes.
It will come out in power. But it says, go ye. So wherever you go, once we hit our front door, we're going. And we're going out into our evangelism world. We're going out to where God has placed you. In your work, he's got you there for a reason. And it's really not, some of it's your paycheck, but that's not a lot of it. Not all of it. because you're going to make an impact within the place that you're working, where you're at. We should be changing the atmosphere where we're at. We should be changing lives every place that we work. When we go to the grocery store, the gas station, wherever, there's an open door for us. I remember during the COVID, I was I was a salesman. I was on the road, and I remember walking into a gas station to get gas, and the mask, the shield, and everything, And I always went in without a mask. That's just, I refused. But I remember coming up and paying for it. And I looked at the clerk, and she had her mask on, and she had gloves on, and behind the shield. And God spoke to me. I had a word for her. And so I paid, and I walked around to where I wasn't talking through that plexiglass, and I shared the word that God had for her. And she broke out just crying. I said, I'm going to pray for you. And off come the mask, off come the gloves. I said, I'm going to pray. Wide open at that time. She was wide open to it. And the fear of all the COVID and everything, I seen it leave her at that point. And I got to pray with her, got to minister with her at that point. And I'd stopped in a couple of times after that, and she always remembered that day of what God did for her. And it took me, it was probably 2 or 3 minutes, that's all it was, that time. But it's going to last a lifetime with her. That's what God, that's how easy this is. And you look at the life of Jesus, that's what he did. Everywhere he went, he ministered. Well, that's Jesus. He had nothing that we don't have.
That's right.
Amen? I want this to challenge you today, but I want to encourage you to minister to people every day. Every day I look, I say, God, I want at least one person today that I can pray for. At least one. And in doing that, what I've had to do, have you ever noticed that we can decide how people are by what they look like? An example. Here, there's been several months ago. We've got a Dairy Queen. I took my two grandchildren, went and got them, and said, let's go for ice cream. So we went into the Dairy Queen. And there was a young girl working there, and she was in all black, and black this, black, everything was black. And we know what type of, what category we could put her in, right? So I'm standing there, and I'm looking at her, and she's running back and forth, and she's doing a great job. And here again, the Word of God came for her. God told me she's born again, and she loves me, and she has a very soft heart toward me. And I want to use that heart to minister to other people. And so she was moving quickly. I finally got the order, and I finally got her stopped. I said, God has a word for you. And I shared the word with her. She started crying. And she said, thank you so much. I needed that. We can't let the enemy help us form an opinion by how people look, how they dress, where they're at.
That's right.
And I asked God, and talking about decreeing and confessing, I want to see people through your eyes, not mine.
Yes.
Because I can look and I can be wrong, and I have been wrong. And I no longer want to be that way. I want to see people how they are. And this morning at the hotel, I was having breakfast, and TV was right by. I shouldn't have sat by the TV. News was on, which was not all, nothing good. And I looked up, and I just seen the lobby with people, coming, going, eating breakfast and that. And I looked at them and said, God, I said, what's it going to take to get them? What do we have to do? We have evangelism programs. We have programs out there, and there's so much out there. And a lot of it's been so unsuccessful. Why? Because it's not what God has put out there. And I only want to do what God tells me to do.
Yes. That's right.
But I want to make sure that I have this heart where I can look and look at people and say, God, what do I have to do? Like Nehemiah when he saw the walls broken down. And he fasted and prayed, God, what do I have to do? What's my part? What's my part in this revival? What's your part in this revival? What's your part in getting people born again? Get them healed. Get them filled with the Holy Spirit. What's our part? What do we do? How do we do this? And fall in love with people. I'm a service manager at a Ford store. And so I get all the heat. And after maybe a whole day of coming in, I could get to the place where the last person, they ain't going to leave my office alive. And I've got to step away, and say, God, this isn't right. I've got to change. And that change happens when I get into His presence. And that's one of the biggest things that we can do when we getting to where we're going to minister to people, we're going to reach out to people, is be in His presence every day.
Yes.
And just cut out that time. And Pastor, you talked about, these 4-hour chunks. I struggled with that for years because I can't do that. I thought, hour every morning, an hour at night. It never happened. And when it did, I forced it, and it was like, blah. But when I'm driving down the road, ministering to myself, praying in the Holy Spirit, God starts talking. And there's that time of that presence. When I'm at work, I get that 5-10 minute chunk. And I carve that out. Okay, God, I'm getting away from all this. I'm going to go pray in the Holy Spirit. And there's that presence. And then there are times that I can schedule in that hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes, and really spend that quality time. That I shouldn't say quality, the quantity time with Him. Because every time we're in there, it's quality, right? Whether it's 2 hours, whether it's 5 minutes, that's quality. But then we have that time where we can really sit and wipe everything out and hear Him and be able to have that conversation, a lengthy conversation with Him, and know what He's saying and know what He's directing us to do. And I have those times, especially with how do I minister more to people. And this is my heart. This is my life. what He's called me to do. But He's called all of us to it, to minister to people, to love people, even the most unlovable. And that's when we go. Every time we go, there's an opportunity to minister to somebody. And it says that these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents, and they will drink any deadly thing, and it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. These signs are following us. Because we're believers, right? There was a time it wasn't following me. Number one, I didn't know it. 18 years ago, when I moved down there, I remember headed to Lexington, and I went under this underpass, and I said, God, I have just forgotten everything I know about you. And I did. But what He did, a lot of stuff that wasn't right, teaching, He took it out. He took it away. It was that quick, it was gone. It's like, man, I feel like I'm born again. Now I got to learn. But see, I was introduced into the Word of faith, which I didn't know. And so I was being retaught, and I was being taught correctly. And praise God, it's been an adventure since. But that's where really growth started with me, and understanding, and really growing in the anointing, and just the whole gamut. Everything about God started growing more and more with me. Why? Because I positioned myself. I moved my family down to where God called me down. I had a vision one day while I was still here in Illinois, and I was standing on the Indiana side of the bridge. I was looking over into Louisville, and God said, that is your promised land. And that has anchored me there when I wanted to run. But that vision anchored me. I'm always looking for keeping the vision of people in front of me. And it doesn't just happen. It's work.
That's right.
We work at it. When somebody ruffles our feathers, God, I want to see them through your eyes. I love that person. I love them. How do I minister to them? What do I do? Instead of, well, you need to send the pastor over, you need to send this person, this leader, what do I do? Because see, the fivefold ministry is to train us to do the work of the ministry. Pastor Bob, your calendar's full, right? Yes. So you don't have time to run around all over the place, right? Doing this, doing that.
You have to classify running around.
Well, running around. Busy hospital calls, busy evangelizing. Because see, that's not what he's supposed to do. He's going to teach. He's going to train. And you're going to go out. Did I say that okay for you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No, that conversation never happened between him and I on that. But I've sat there before and thinking, they need to get busy. All they do is have an hour behind the pulpit on Sundays. You know, a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. Well, praise God, it's a whole lot more than that. But we go out. That's Christianity. That is just Christianity. That's how God works. He works through us, every one of us.
That's right.
And I know there's times that you'll minister to people when you're out. I'm not saying that you don't. This end time revival is coming. They're saying it's a 1 billion soul revival. 1 billion souls. It's going to take all of us. Amen? It's going to take all of us to see that 1 billion souls come in. And yes, we're going to have people, God's going to lead people into the doors. But I'm totally convinced the majority has come by us being out there and bringing them in.
Yes.
That's going to be what we're going to do. Get them, and that's an every day ministering to people that way. Turn to Matthew chapter 5. In verse 14. It says, "You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." I'm going to read this out of the Passion. It says, "Your lives light up the world. Let others see your light from a distance, for how can you hide a city that stands on a hilltop? And who would light a lamp and then hide it in an obscure place? Instead, it's placed where everyone in the house can benefit from its light. So don't hide your light. Let it shine brightly before others, so that the commendable things you do will shine as light unto them, and they will give you their praise. They will give their praise to your Father in heaven." Don't hide your light. Todd White says don't be a basket-headed Christian. In other words, don't hide your light with that basket. Be open. Remain open. Remain where you are. And see, I can say this because this is something that I had to work through, of talking to people. It was uncomfortable at times. The first time I went out on the street with a gentleman, and we were going into a festival up here in Illinois, and because of my job, I knew a lot of the people was going to be there from my work. And we pulled into a parking lot, and I knew he carried a cross with him. This thing was a 12-foot cross. And we put it together. He said, "Randy, you're carrying this today." I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "You're carrying it." And he walked away. And there was a cross, and there was me. I had a choice at that time. I was just going to pick it up, and I was going to go, or I was going to stay there and not do it. I picked that up, and there was a gate there, and I come around the gate with it, and as soon as I put my foot on the sidewalk, all the fear, because it was fear I was fighting, all the fear immediately left. It was gone. And God set the hook that day, and it's never been the same since. See, I know this. I know what the devil's going to tell you. Number one, you can't do this. What if they don't listen? What if they don't? It's not you they're rejecting. It's the word. It's the message. I spent in a trailer park. I spent about close to 4 years ministering in a trailer park. It was at least every other week. And toward about 6 months when I quit going, I was going there. I was like, I don't want to do this, Pastor Deb. I don't want to go there. And about 6 months of that, and I was feeling like I'm not going to go there anymore. I'm not going to go there. And I thought, this ain't God. You know, what is wrong with me? This is what I do. And I remember Pastor called me into the office after service one day, sat down. She says, you're not supposed to go back to that trailer park. I said, thank you. Thank you for hearing God when I couldn't. But I learned something in that, because my heart is always to reach out to people. And your heart can lead you into trouble. Because when I first went down there, I would give people money. And Pastor Bill said, don't do that. Said, because he said, they're going to go buy drugs. Really? They said their car was out of gas. They either laughed. He said, yeah, next time tell them to go show you the car. And so I learned so much down there. But you've got to be led by the Spirit. Okay? And I'd say that with this also, there's times that you may not. Because there's times I'll look at people, come into a grocery store, convenience store, whatever, and okay, God, show me somebody. I walk through there and there's nobody. Nothing. I mean, it's just there's people or nothing. So then, okay, if there's anybody limping as they go out, I'll find somebody, it's physically, I can tell that they're sick or something. And I'll just go up to them, hey, can I pray for you? Do you want to be healed? That back pain, do you want it to leave? And I'll pray for them. We'll see God move. And so there's been that thing, and it's not as much now as it has been. We always got to be led by the Spirit. I'm not saying we don't. But I'm saying that can become an excuse for us not to reach out. Always reaching out. God did. Every one of us have sinned against God in our past life, right? Every one of us. But God was still reaching out to us. And I know the years that He was reaching out to me, but I never relinquished myself to Him until that day. Always reaching out. And we are Christians, which are Christ-like, so we should always be reaching out to people.
That's right.
With the love of God. Because God's love knows no bounds. That light that we're lit up with is the love and the glory of God.
That's right.
Yes.
So if we're going to hide that, we're hiding God, which we don't do. Amen? We want that to shine because that's going to change people's lives. And I tell you, there is nothing more thrilling is to lead somebody to Christ. To see God heal them. There was the one trailer park I was at, we also do food distribution once a month. And I was doing food distribution, and I started, and I normally don't do this, but that day I did. I started ministering, started preaching on the street, and had a crowd of people coming around. And across the street, I call it a street, and it's trailer park, you would understand. Just across the street and a couple trailers down, a lady come out, and I knew her. I didn't realize she just had back surgery. And 2 days out from back surgery, she got up out of bed because she heard I was there, come out of the door, and she was dragging her legs. She was bent over in total pain, but she came out. And so I had her sit down. Here's a chair, sit down, and I was ministering. And I was not led by the Spirit or nothing, but I knew she needed release from this. So I turned to her. I said, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for your back. She says, don't make me do anything. I did not answer her. And the lady who was taking care of her was standing behind her. And the lady said, don't you make her do nothing. So I didn't answer her either. So I prayed, and she was sitting there, and I said, what's going on with your back? She said, the pain's leaving. I said, okay, stand up. So she stood up. I said, what's going on with your back? She said, the pain is totally gone. I said, bend over and touch your toes. And immediately she bent over and touched her toes. She stood up. She took off on a dead run up and down the street screaming, I'm healed, I'm healed. And her husband was standing there. She come by him. She stopped. She says, I'm healed, I'm healed. And she took off again. That changed that whole trailer park because they witnessed a miracle. Except for it didn't change one lady. And that was her caretaker. She was not happy. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't get it. Sit down. I said, she's fine. Just be quiet. And she kept up, so I stood between her and the other lady. I turned my back to her. I said, you are not going to mess this up, what God has done. And she was totally pain-free. 2 days out of back surgery. That did something to her. That did something with me. Why? Because I seen God use me to change somebody's life. And there is nothing on this earth can make that you feel that way.
That's right.
And that's a feeling. It's something. And I had, because of my upbringing, I had struggled with inferiority. Now I was never good enough. You're a mighty, mighty woman of God. God has things for you that you can't even dream of. There's things that it's impossible for you, but God. You've got big dreams, but He's dreaming bigger for you. And He's going to work mightily through you. And Pastor Bob said, I think it was you, about Pastor Nancy said, you're going to see miracles. You're going to see miracles. Amen? Thank you, Father. In that same trailer park, another lady was losing her eyesight. And she was her and her husband was fighting me on salvation, or fighting God, but just would never relinquish. Well, she ended up in the hospital. She had something go on in her brain. She lost sight in one eye. and was losing the other one. And I visited her, and I found out where she was at in the hospital. And I walked in and said, "How you doing?" And she says, "Oh, I recognize the voice, but all I see is a silhouette." So I talked to her. I said, "You want your eyesight back?" She says, "Yeah." It's okay. Let's pray. We prayed. She opened her eyes. She says, "I can see you. And you're not a silhouette no more. I can see you." So let's go for a walk. So I walked around started walking down the hallway, and they had these signs on the wall, and I said, "Read that sign." She walked right up to it and read it. I said, "Okay, let's walk some more." So we walked, we just talked, and come by another sign. I said, "Read the sign." And she stood further back. Read it. By the time we got done walking, the last sign, she was 4 or 5 feet away from the sign reading it. And took her back to the room, and her eyesight eventually be totally restored.
Hallelujah.
That's what God has for you out there.
Yes.
God wants to use each one of you to do that, to change people's lives.
That's right.
And I was in the lady with the back problem, I was in at Costco. I was on one side of the building, and I heard, "Pastor Randy!" echo through the store. Oh. Turned around, there she was, running down the aisle. And that does something to you. One, because we're allowing ourselves to be open to people, knowing that we don't know how the reaction's going to be. It's not been that bad. I've only been threatened to be shot once. He was not a happy person. But to open ourselves up to people that way, where this culture today wants us to push people away. Get your 6 feet away from me. Right? Get your mask on. Where people are fighting other people over toilet paper. A year ago, but I mean, but we come out and we're willing to come up and lay hands on people. That personal contact that people are missing now.
Yes.
Because many people have been so isolated.
Yes.
And we're willing to come up. I'm going to pray for you. And we sit and we pray. And you need a lot of prayers, sir. But we're willing to step out and step out in our power and in our protection. We're protected from this thing. Right?
Yes.
We can't walk in fear of this thing. Is it real? Yes. COVID's real. But it ain't coming near me. Because that's just going to hinder mine and your ability to minister to people. And we're not going to have that. Now, build your faith. If it isn't there, build your faith. Okay? We don't want to do some silly stuff. Know where you're at.
Yes, amen.
Right? Because I didn't do it immediately. But I got in the Word. I built myself up to where, okay, this thing isn't going to stop me. Not going to stop me. And I went out and did what I was supposed to do. living a lifestyle of Christianity. Okay? And that's what we do. As Jerry Savelle says, that's just what we do. It's just what we do. Amen. Have your testimony ready. This is just some simple things that I put together. Have your testimony ready. 3 to 5 minutes is all. I was training a group to go out and witness. And I told the one lady, and I knew I should have made myself more clear. I said, get your testimony ready because you're going to testify today on the street. 20 minutes later, she's still talking. And we lost them. And so I had learned, time it, 3 to 5 minutes. Pin this thing down and know your testimony. Spend time in the presence of God. Get the heart of God for the people. Amen. Get the heart of God. Deal with fear. That's the biggest thing the enemy's going to bring to you is fear. But the word says we don't have that spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And part of that is we're not timid. We're not timid. Fear will stop you. Fear will keep you from reaching out. But don't allow it. And as I said, see people as the Father sees them. Speak over yourself. I see as the Father sees people. I see people as the Father sees them. Connect with someone who's already reaching out and evangelizing, who's doing it. Connect with them. A couple years ago, Chariots of Light, we connected with Jerry Savelle Ministry on that. The day that we connected with them was the day that there was a physical, marked change in evangelism. Why? Because we connected, and the grace that he operates in, because he's big on evangelism, big on getting people born again. You know, there's three things, three key things with Chariots of Light, and it's not a promotion for that, but you know, passion for God, passion for souls, and passion for motorcycles. But the passion for souls, it's a tool to reach more people, and that's what it is. It's like taking food to somebody. It's a tool to get into their life, to open that door where we may never open that door to them. Amen. Just fall in love with people. Get that heart of God. And be willing to step out past yourself. And say, okay, God, use me. And know this. I guarantee you will miss it at times. I have. I was in a Starbucks one day, and I was exiting, and this lady come in, and as she walked in the door, she said, I have a headache. And I was crunched on time. I thought, God, I ain't got time for this. And I walked out and I didn't pray for her. And my heart sunk as I drove away. It wasn't condemnation, it was, God, I've missed that. And I'm never going to do that again. And there's been words that I've given people, and I, nope, that don't fit. Okay, I missed it. Hey, I'm learning. You know, one thing you can say to people if you ask them if they need prayer before you pray, hey, we're learning in our church to pray for people and that God will heal them. Because see, it's God that's going to do it. It's not us. We're just a vessel He's going to use. That's all it is. We just got to be willing to be used. Amen? Amen. That's what I've got for you. Thank you, Father.